Yo everyone, how's it hanging? We're back here with the Greatest Attorney Chronicles. Time to summon in Seishiro Jigoku as the first witness in the second day of this trial. At last then, we've reached the final battle. It's the final battle! It's putting literally everything on the line now in order to get to the truth. I slapped my own cheeks on that one. Do not take that out of context. Come on, Ryunosuke. It's time for that steely resolve, because this is gonna test it to the limit. Genkai wo koeru. Witness, state your name and occupation for the court. So it was you who issued this, wasn't it? You're sub poena. I did what was necessary. Well, look what the young man has become. I didn't think I'd see the day when you'd take that tone with me, I must say. The witness will ensure his responses are pertinent to the questions asked. My name is Seishiro Jigoku, a Supreme Court judge from the Empire of Japan. 16 years ago, this man came to London as a visiting student. 6 years later, he returned to Japan. As well as presiding over the Supreme Court, he is also currently Japan's Minister of Foreign Affairs. I am of course fully aware of Mr. Jigoku and his preeminent roles. I invited him personally to the International Forensic Science Symposium as a representative of his country. I hear he also played a key role in the conclusion of the Anglo-Japanese Treaty of Friendship and Navigation. It was a great honor to be involved in the negotiations. I put my all into that treaty. Judge Jigoku, I must ask. Well, I never. Fancy the unmurdering student turning up here of all places. You acquitted me yourself. And now I'm a practicing defense lawyer. Yes, and full of self-importance like your friend across the courtroom, I see. You came here to London by invitation to the International Forensic Science Symposium. You know, I could just shorten that to IFSS instead. But then, without informing anyone of your plans, you took flight to France. Took flight? I'd have to object to that turn of phrase. Then explain yourself. What exactly were the circumstances? Well, I was somewhat expecting this, and I'm sorry to say, I decline to comment. What? I mean, he does have the right to remain silent. Leaving the country prematurely when I was an invited guest may be questionable etiquette. But my decision is unrelated to this case. I can't be bound to testify. Unrelated, you say? I appreciate that a respected police inspector has been killed, for which I offer my condolences. However, being an alien, I'd obviously never met the man, nor do I know the first thing about him. As such, I'm in no position to testify. It's as simple as that. So you would run from all this? I beg your pardon. This case is more far-reaching than the murder of Inspector Gregson. It has ties to another murder, a case that was tried in Japan almost a year ago now. A year ago in Japan? The murder of Dr. John H. Wilson, you mean? That's right. And you, Judge Jigoku, are at the heart of both cases. The defense has evidence to prove it. Man. I can't tell if he's just... I don't think Jigoku is a... I wouldn't like to think that he's an inherently bad person. It would be kind of funny given that his last name literally means hell, but... Well, Ryunosuke, I see from the look in your eyes that you're resolved to carry this through to the very end, too. Man, there's a lot of talk of Resolve in this game. Big shocker considering it's called Great Ace Attorney 2 Resolve. Let's see your evidence, then. What proof do you have that Seishiro Jigoku is involved in this case? Na 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 na. Still don't know what this does. One of these. Proof, huh? Proof. It's not the Asogi papers. We still need to find a use for that, though. Man, we're starting off at something that's difficult. That or my brain is just rotted to the core. Katoa... Oh, it's probably just this, right?
Take that!
Yeah. I was looking into the actual evidence when I should have just read the description. This is a telegram detailing a communication sent between Britain and Japan approximately 1 year now. 1 year ago now. The communication contained 4 names. K. Asogi, A. Shin, T. Gregson, and J. Wilson. You little... Where did you get that? In Tokyo. From your office, Judge Jigoku. What? How on earth did you... Oh, damn. What's this all about? Why is my name on that list? This list of 4 names follows a certain pattern. T. Gregson and J. Wilson are the names of victims. K. Sogi and A. Shin are the names of assassins. No! A year ago in Tokyo, Dr. John H. Wilson's life was taken in a Western-style restaurant in the capital. The culprit was found to be a visiting student who went by the name of Giselle Brett. But her real name was Asashin, a professional killer sent on a mission to kill from Great Britain. A. Shin and her victim J. Wilson. And the murder that just took place here in London was the counterpart to that crime. An assassin sent from Japan, also a visiting student, Kazuma Sogi, whose victim was the British police inspector Tobias Gregson. K. Sogi and T. Gregson. One assassin from each country to kill a target residing in the other. What exactly is the defense suggestion? These 2 cases of murder, one that took place in Britain, and one in Japan, were masterminded by a pair of individuals from each country as a form of assassin exchange. And the telegram the defense has acquired is proof of this international contract to kill. What? Oh, damn. The telegram was found in your office, Judge Jigoku. In other words, the mastermind in Japan was you. Damn. This is crazy, though. Man, it is real funny, the fact that he is a... You know, the fact that he's literally... His last name is Hell. Which is literally, like, the most, like, obvious thing that you would think that, oh man, he's gotta be evil if he has his last name is Hell. But then you're just like, oh no, he's just a friendly judge. He's a nice guy. It's not like we've ever had a bad judge in an Ace Attorney game, but nope. Oh boy. And I feel bad for Mikatoba. Frickin' Genshin Asogi was one of his friends and turned out to be like a serial killer, supposedly. And then he got hanged at the gallows. Well, he was failed to be hanged at the gallows, and then he was shot. He was shot when he rose from his own grave. And now his other friend that went to Britain with him has become a mastermind that hired an assassin. Judge Jigoku, what's this all about? And you, Kazuma, you lied. During yesterday's proceedings, you acknowledged that you'd accepted the assassination mission. But the mark wasn't Judge Jigoku at all. It was Tobias Gregson, Detective Inspector at Scotland Yard. As shown by the name on the killing contract. Very impressive, Ryunosuke. But actually, I didn't lie. The name of the target I was ordered to kill never passed my lips yesterday. The idea that Seishiro Jigoku was his mark came entirely from you. You deliberately avoided saying a name! God damn. Bro, why is everyone a frickin' traitor in this place? Like, I swear. Gregson, who was a pretty nice guy aside from, you know, making a trade with frickin' Ashley Graydon back in the first game. That was the only bad thing he did. I was like, oh, he's a nice guy. He was just trying to protect state secrets, you know. And then he turns out to be some shady-ass dude. I mean, we don't know if he was truly a bad person. He was trying to keep Gina alive, at least. But then we had frickin' Seishiro Jigoku over here, who we literally just went over it, so I don't have to explain it. And then the same thing with Kazuma. It's like, damn, you can't trust nobody in this game. Well, except for like Susato, Sholmes, and Iris, probably. And Soseki. Basically all of our defendants that aren't Magnus McGilded. The defense claims these 4 names indicate some sort of international assassin exchange. I'm sure I speak for all present when I say that the very idea seems utterly absurd. Well, Mr. Jigoku, what do you have to say for yourself? His silence only goes to prove his guilt. There's another very important point that this new development brings to light. There's now a distinct possibility at the scene of Inspector Gregson's actual murder was in the witness's cabin aboard the SS Grouse. Judge Jigoku, you have to testify now. To refuse would put you in contempt of court. There's no need for such a vicious stare, young man. Very well then. As a parting gift to you all, I'll tell you everything I know. It seems this Japanese gentleman has information that the court must hear. About the alleged assassin exchange in the events of the night of the 31st of October. Present your formal testimony now. Before we do that, there's something that I want to examine this piece of evidence because this was found in the chest with Jigoku. You see these little things all over the place, don't you? It's the part on the top of a pocket watch that you twist to set the time, right? Isn't it? Oh, it's called the crown, I believe. A watch would be quite useless without one. The crown? Like, what sits on top of a monarch's head? That's a very grand name for such a tiny part. But actually... Yes, Miss Naruhodo? If this is a crown... I have a feeling I might have seen a monarch around here somewhere with a very, very bare head. If by monarch you mean pocket watch, then I'm quite sure you have. Oh... Hold up. What do you think, Mrs. Sato? I feel sure I know exactly what will fit here. Really? I was just thinking precisely the same thing. We're about to see that the little round component is actually part of Inspector Gregson's broken pocket watch. Really? I was just thinking precisely that too. And insertion. A perfect fit. I knew it! Alright, perhaps you knew it. I'll make a note of this new information at once. It's now clear that it's the missing cry. Okay, yeah. Oh, we're not gonna try twisting it at all? Kinda wacky, but okay. As you wish, my lord. Here we go. The Assassin Exchange. It's true that Kazuma Sogi was assigned the assassination mission 1 year ago now. The target was Inspector T. Gregson. That was a condition of the British study tour. However, in the end, something happened that meant the young man was unable to carry out his mission. On the evening in question, a member of the crew was on duty outside my cabin at all times. If there'd been a shot fired, the crewman would have heard it, so clearly I can't be involved. Wasn't that crewman on your payroll or something? So you admit it then. As this communication suggests, there really was an assassin exchange arrangement between Britain and Japan. A political endeavor at the highest levels, not something I can discuss here. To use such a worthy practice as foreign study to coerce someone into commit murder. It's the most appalling thing I've ever heard. Appalling? Well, it's easy to judge. Pardon? Sogi had a reason for taking his sword to that British inspector, you see. What? Which is why he accepted the mission in the first place. Isn't that right, Counsel? Kazuma-sama? Judge Jigoku, if you are the mastermind behind this operation in Japan, then tell the court the identity of your counterpart in Britain. Oh, we're gonna have to figure that one out ourselves. I'm not obliged to divulge that information. As I said yesterday, I've killed nobody. I freely admit that I accepted the mission, but on the night of the plan was to be executed, I backed out. In short, this assassin exchange that the defense has identified is unrelated to the events of this case. The crucial point is this. Your police inspector can't have perished aboard that steamship in Dunkirk. Because if he'd been shot in the cabin, it's inconceivable that a member of the crew wouldn't have heard. That's right. Gregson was killed after returning to London, in the room on Fresno Street. And the perpetrator of the crime was the Reaper, Barrick von Zeeks. The prosecution's accusation remains unchanged. To think that a seemingly innocent foreign exchange program was a facade for such Machiavellian dealings. Clearly it's a plot only a government minister and high-ranking judge such as the witness could hope to execute. Well, I seem to recall that it was someone on the British side who controlled everything. Be that as it may, it is not the place of this court to pursue this villainous assassin exchange plot. We are concerned only with the tangible events pertaining to the murder of Inspector Gregson. Yeah, that's what you'd say if you were the one in charge of it, nerd. You probably are. I mean, hell, who else do we know that's as powerful as you? Is the defense clear too deep, too deep. Is the defense clear on that point, Counsel? Yes, my lord. I'll keep that in mind as I cross-examine the witness. The assassin exchange. Da dun dun. Do da do da do da 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 dun. A year ago, when Kazuma was still in Japan then. Correct. It was at the examination center for applicants for the study tour that I approached him. I'll never forget it. I remember exactly what you said. You just came out and asked me forthright if I'd consider traveling to Britain on an assassination mission. Surely not. I thought it was a joke at first, of course, but then it was made clear to me that if I didn't accept, I wouldn't be considered for the study tour. So you agreed to it just for that? I mean, I know how much you wanted to study in England, but assassination? The Empire of Japan had accepted a proposal from the British Empire at the time. An agreement to send a student from each country to the others to deepen cultural understanding and friendship. But behind the scenes, the chosen students were to be given assassination missions. I had no choice but to accept the proposal that originated from my British counterpart. Why? Why didn't you expose the plot there and then? Britain acknowledges no part in these alleged misbegotten dealings. I advise you not to make spurious allegations, Foreign Minister Jigoku. You know, that just makes me more suspicious of you. I was kind of joking when I said that before, but now I'm actually suspicious. As a witness, I am bound to tell the truth, my lord. Anyway, I picked Asogi and explained the details of the plan to him.
Hold it!
Alright. Why Kazuma? Why did you pick him as the assassin? He was the most capable of all the applicants, and in addition, and his desire to travel to Britain was very strong. In fact, it was almost more than a desire. It was his whole purpose in life. Yes, as his best friend, I can certainly attest to that. The way he threw himself into his studies, the way he pursued becoming qualified as a lawyer. It was all ultimately for that one single goal of being accepted on a study tour to Britain. And of course, we know the reason behind that. He was determined to find out for himself the truth about his father, Genshin Asogi. There's nothing I wouldn't have done to get here. Be that agreeing to assume the role of an assassin or betraying people's trust. Well, you certainly did a fine job of betraying mine, Asogi. But why was Inspector Gregson the target? I have no idea. Those were the orders from Britain. I was in no position to question them. You have no idea? Really? I find that hard to believe. Oh, do you? Judge Jigoku was once a visiting student here in Britain himself, of course. Perhaps he had some connection with Inspector Gregson from that time. There's also the story of why the hell Wilson was killed. Like, like, if Kazuma was sent, if someone in Britain wanted Gregson dead, then that would mean that Jigoku wanted Wilson dead, you know? The defense really ought to catch up. With what? The times. What are you, a boomer? I'm supposed to be the boomer here. With the fact that the assassin exchange has absolutely nothing to do with the case under scrutiny here. I don't like this. He gives off Damon Gant vibes. The way that he's like he's a big dude. He has attorney badges on the front of his outfit. And he's like smiling with his eyes closed. He's literally just Damon Ganting right now. All we need is for him to ask us if we want to go swimming, and that would just seal the deal as them being related. Yes, I've already admitted to recruiting Asogi. However, in the end, something happened that meant the young man was unable to carry out his mission.
Hold it!
We shall see about that. I presume you're referring to the incident that occurred during Kazuma's passage to Britain in January. The awful tragedy that took place on the steamship. Word arrived at the ministry some 2 weeks after the ship's departure from our shores. The visiting student had been killed, but his body had somehow gone missing in Hong Kong. The news was wired to me from a detective I'd placed on the ship to accompany the assassin. Obviously, Kazuma didn't actually die at all. But he did lose his memory, including all details about his special mission. Did you not consider dispatching another assassin at that point? That wasn't possible, simply because that Black Gladion student over there had already put himself forward as Asogi's replacement. There is no way to stop him from reaching Britain. Ah. Wow. Ryunosuke put it. Good job, Ryunosuke. Put in some hitches in the plan of the bad guys. What a lad. My hands were completely tied.
So Mr. Sholmes' strategy worked perfectly.
He predicted everything that would happen. What a Chad. He might act like a dumbass, but sometimes he isn't one. Months later, my memory returned. But I never intended to go through with the assassination mission anyway. So you were playing me right from the outset, were you? Is that it? I'd sooner be guilty of that crime than of taking someone else's life. I was prepared to do whatever I had to in order to get myself here to Britain. This line of questioning has gone on long enough. All the court should be concerned about in the testimony given by this witness are details related to his relationship with Inspector Gregson and the victim's murder. In that case, as I've already made perfectly clear, I had no connection to the man or his death. And you have some means of substantiating this plea. Any question? A member of the crew is on duty at my cabin at all times.
Hold it!
Outside your cabin in the first-class area of the SS Grouse, you mean? Yes, that's right. Not least because there was a murder of a student passenger earlier in the year, I imagine. The liner operators have taken to posting a crewman outside every first-class cabin door. I can confirm the presence of the crewman guard myself. What do you mean? Because I accompanied Inspector Gregson to Dunkirk that night. I witnessed it with my own eyes. There was a well-built crewman standing guard directly in front of the door to the witness's cabin. Can't believe the crewman was built different. Chicken Stroganoff was indeed built. At that particular time, of course, I had gone to the ship's dining room for dinner. The inspector and I asked the crewman to allow us into the cabin while we waited for Judge Jigoku's return. I suppose Inspector Gregson was there in his capacity as the Reaper. He was intending to take the witness's life. Exactly. As I've said numerous times now, I had no intention of killing anyone. So the crewman let two potential assassins into the cabin he was supposed to be guarding. I still don't believe a single word Kazuma says because of the trunk. The trunk literally has a shard from his sword in it. Like, how do you explain that, huh? Not the most convincing of centuries, really. In truth, those were my thoughts, too. But anyway, I stayed to talk with Inspector Gregson for a short while. And then I left him there, and made my way off the ship alone. Bullshit, you did. Was the guard still at the door when you went? Yes, he glared at me as I walked past. You see, that proves it. I don't trust that line at all. Whoever said there was a shot.
Hold it!
The crewman who was standing directly outside your cabin door, you mean? That's right. A muscular man with a permanent grim expression on his face. He didn't once move from that spot. To be honest, I thought he was a miserable fellow. But as it happens, he's a vital witness now. There's no doubt that Gregson was killed by a gunshot, and it's inconceivable that a crewman standing just outside the cabin door wouldn't have heard that.
But wait, what about the ship's enormous steam engines? The noise of them could have drowned out the sound of the gun being fired.
Sadly, young judicial assistant, that won't wash.
Oh,
You will recall that my cabin was in the first-class area of the ship, which is also, of course, the quietest. Don't imagine for a moment that it's anything like steerage where the judicial assistants go.
I didn't mean...
But a hole like that made by a bullet was found in your cabin, Judge Jigoku. That's compelling evidence that a gun was fired in there. What's that? A bullet hole? Oh yes, you're talking about what the detective uncovered in the wall yesterday, I presume. That was obviously a rotten panel eaten out by woodwork. No doubt he didn't find an actual bullet. Ugh, that's a hole in this argument. Sadly, I was unable to arrange for the crewman to be brought back to Britain with me. But obviously, if a gun had been fired in my cabin on the night in question, as the defense implies, I would have been arrested on the spot and would never have made it to Britain in the first place. Very true. The witness's logic is sound. Sorry about that. A feline wandered into the courtroom. Since no gunshot was heard from the witness's cabin on the night in question, we must assume that the witness is telling the truth. I'm glad you've seen sense, my lord. I know Kazuma's already admitted to taking on this incredible assassination plot, but even so, hearing it confirmed by somebody else is still a real shock.
It's unforgivable. Using Kazuma-sama's feelings to manipulate him into agreeing to such a despicable plan.
But I think Kazuma manipulated Judge Jigoku too. He completely double-crossed him.
Oh dear. It's hard not to see that as a stroke of brilliance on Kazuma-sama's part.
One way or another, though, Gregson ended up dead. I really think that the murder must have happened aboard that steamship.
So you mean...
Judge Jigoku must be lying.
I know I shouldn't let my emotions cloud my judgment, but you must destroy him, Miss Naruhodo.
Yeah, I think your emotions are definitely clouded to some extent. Okay. Let's save, because you never know with this stuff. Always gotta find something or other. Target was at Gregson, yeah. That man was... It's gotta be this last statement, right? Huh. So this is the type of revolver that's standard issue for members of the judiciary, then. It's about records about...
Yes, and when I asked about whether records are kept about who they're issued to, I was told that for the past 5 years they've been engraved with a unique serial number.
Oh, but as far as I can tell, there's nothing like that on this gun.
Which tells us that it must have been issued longer ago than that.
Huh. There's gotta be something. Oh, wait. It's here. A member of the crew was on duty outside my cabin at all times. Following departure from the port of Dunkirk, all crew members are required to assemble on the main deck at 10 p.m. in order to review evacuation procedures. The drill will take 20 minutes. Ba-boom. You're done.
Objection!
Yes, as the court has heard, there was a crewman posted outside Judge Jigoku's cabin. However, we can be sure that, contrary to the witness's claim, the guard wasn't there at all times. What? I have here a notice of a particular event that was scheduled to take place aboard the steamship on the 31st. Where did you get that? It's evidence gathered by Mr. Herlock Sholmes. You were acquainted yesterday, if you remember. Herlock Sholmes again? According to this itinerary, after leaving the port of Dunkirk at exactly 10 p.m., and for a period of 20 minutes, all crewmen of the SS Grouse were to gather on deck for an evacuation drill. All crewmen were away from their posts? And during that 20-minute interval, of course. Any gunshots emanating from your cabin would have been heard by no one. Ooh, get owned. Get owned. In summary, Judge Jigoku, you had ample opportunity to commit the crime. Get owned, get owned. A 20-minute window of opportunity. That's an excellent find, Ryunosuke. But it amounts to nothing. Why? Because the witness was clearly stated in his testimony that no incident occurred in his cabin. Unless you have some decisive evidence that can show his testimony to be false. Your accusation is nothing more than conjecture. Very true. Well, counsel. Inspector Gregson was killed in Judge Jigoku's cabin that night. I'm certain of it. Because the defense has the evidence to prove it. You will present the evidence for the defense at once, counsel. What proof do you have that the victim's life was taken in Jigoku's cabin? Ooh. Shit. I want to say... God. It's gotta be... It's either the sword or this. I know it's gotta be. Oh, or maybe it's this. Because this is found in there.
Take that!
Is this it? Judge Jigoku, this was found in your cabin yesterday. Okay, I've made the right choice. I had 3 choices there, and I chose the right one. What is that? The crown of a pocket watch. A pocket watch. And if you will observe, the victim's pocket watch, which we know he treasured, is missing precisely that part. It can't be. Moreover, this crown is a perfect fit on the spindle protruding from the victim's watch. Ooh. Now, the fact that this was retrieved from Judge Jigoku's cabin tells us that the victim's watch almost certainly broke there. In other words, the victim was killed on the 31st during the 20-minute evacuation drill. In the cabin occupied by you, Judge Jigoku. What you gotta say now, bitch? Well, you're razor sharp, aren't you, you young murderer? Ex-murderer. I quit. Expertly maneuvered, Ryunosuke. And your argument sounds entirely plausible. At first. But rather like this pocket watch. It's full of cracks. What? And I believe Judge Jigoku feels the same way. I was wrong to acquit you earlier in the year. Sorry? If I'd known that it would result in anyone having to listen to this drivel, I would have declared you guilty just to spare the world your ridiculous bombast. Listen, I'm not the one who's gonna be found guilty. That's gonna be you, bitch ass. I think it's clear that the witness will have to give further testimony. When you hear what actually happened in my cabin that night, you'll notice the pitfall into which you've stumbled. Prior to your renewed testimony, I would like to clarify one point. The fact that this part of the victim's watch was discovered in your cabin means that you acknowledge he was there, I presume. Yes, I do. Very well then. You may proceed to give your formal testimony about what exactly happened in your cabin aboard the ship on the evening of the 31st of October. Of course. As a man of the law, I have no intention of obstructing justice. We'll see about that. The evidence... I can't speak! I cannot speak! I'm just a little boy, I cannot speak words! The events in the cabin. I had a guest waiting for me when I returned to my cabin after finishing my evening meal in the dining room. When I walked through the door, a mustachioed Englishman was there, foolishly waving a gun at me. I soon took care of him with an Ippon's sail throw. Though. There was a pause there. I didn't see that it was a comma. I thought it was a period. He couldn't wait to run away after that. I imagine his watch is broken when I threw him over my shoulder. It has nothing to do with his murder. The inspector was clearly killed having returned to Britain, because his body was found in London.
I don't know if I trust this man's words.
Ippon Seo. A common jujutsu martial arts technique in my country. I was careful not to use too much force, but the man obviously landed too heavily for his watch to take. Oh my god, this stupid cat. Give me one. I swear that felin's gonna be the end of me. So, Ryunosuke Naruhodo, I imagine you can see the flaw in your logic now, can't you? What? The fact that the pocket watch was broken in the witness's cabin in no way proves that the victim's murder took place there. I've no doubt that the inspector intended to kill me, but he didn't manage to pull the trigger. Yes, because he was merely the tactician, not the Reaper's hand of death. Well, the testimony appears to make perfect sense as far as I can tell. Let me express my deep gratitude for your understanding, my lord. If this testimony holds, Judge Jigoku will be deemed to have had no involvement in the case. Well, counsel, I really see no reason for wasting precious court time here on a cross-examination. Yeah, of course you'd say that. Sorry, my lord. The defense has a right to cross-examine, and I don't intend to squander that. You're an embarrassment to your countrymen, not knowing when you're beaten. Do you think Ryunosuke cares? You're talking to the man who said that he would fight an entire country in order to save his client. I think you're the embarrassment here. In that case, proceed, Mr. Naruhodo. The events in the cabin. Next time on Great Ace Attorney Chronicles. Adios, ciao, and bye-bye. Signing off until next time. Ja, mata ne.